Good evening and season's greetings to you all. Welcome to the Ghost N.E.A.R show, where we discuss and actively explore paranormal phenomena. I am your host, Keith Johnson, and as we begin, I'd like to give a quick shout out to a good friend of mine, Mr. Viv Austin, and he resides in northern Wales. He has a wonderful show called Ghost Hunter Wales, and that's how it comes on, Ghost Hunter Wales. I love the way it comes on. He also does another show called Exploration Wales, where you get to see a lot of the fantastic, beautiful Welsh countryside. And he's been going through some very serious health problems lately, but he's very optimistic. He's got a good will and everything. So tune in to him if you would like to, because I'm sure you'll be very, very entertained. Ghost Hunter Wales and Exploration Wales, and our thoughts and prayers are with him. And with no further ado, we have a wonderful guest with us tonight, a storyteller extraordinaire, and they're all true stories, paranormal researcher, Andrew Lake.
Hey, Keith. Thanks for having me on.
Great to have you, my friend.
Yeah, Northern Wales. I've been to Northern Wales.
Have you?
It is really, really beautiful and mysterious. I actually went up Mount Snowdon. I walked up it. Now,
Did you really?
I didn't climb up the side that the Everest guys practiced on.
Right.
I took the 11-mile hike up, and it was beautiful walking through the clouds and with the rolling hills.
You walked through the clouds.
And the mist around your ankles. It was really spooky.
Wow.
And it got really, really spooky when we stepped over a wall heading up towards the summit of the mountain. And we step over, and there is a full-grown sheep that has been absolutely shredded to pieces.
Oh my goodness.
Not killed by a poacher and skinned, and it's been torn apart. And my brother and my good friend Eric were just standing there in shock looking at it. And I look up and I go, there are no wolves in Great Britain. There are no predators, and there's nothing. And we're like, that's insane. Well, years later, I find out that one of the infamous black cats of Great Britain was seen on Mount Snowdon.
Oh, really?
So years later, I met Nick Redfern, and I started to tell him that story about, I was in 1977 when this happened. And before he can even get it going, he goes, oh, you mean the black cat of Snowdon? You probably saw one of its victims.
Oh, wow.
Because that was the height of its sightings, and we didn't know that. So we were walking up Mount Snowdon with this sort of cryptid killer on the loose.
Quite precarious,
but
I would say.
It was like, and then years later, American Werewolf in London came out, and they filmed the scene where the kids get attacked. Yep. It was filmed in the same area of Wales.
Oh, really?
So
I thought it's supposed to be in Yorkshire.
But they filmed it up. They filmed it up there in Snowdon, where that scene took place. So we thought, wow, that's a weird coincidence. But we almost had our American Werewolf in London moment on Mount Snowdon.
Maybe it's Heathcliff. Heathcliff didn't howl. Yes, I remember.
But I hope your friend is doing well. And I'll have to check out a show, because Wales is a really, really mysterious place.
It is. It really is. And they've come across some wonderful, wonderful things there.
And the Welsh have great singing voices too.
Oh yeah. Well, he's actually going to sing for his Christmas special.
There you go.
He promised he would.
Yeah, Tom Jones and Engelbert Humperdinck.
Oh yeah, great ones. So you're looking great. You've lost a lot of weight.
Yeah, I have. I've been trying to take care of myself.
Good. You've gotten younger. Good.
Last 2 years, for everybody, as far as I'm concerned, everybody's been in the same boat as far as I'm concerned. But last 2 years were kind of hectic for me. I had a lot of things going on in my personal life, but never lost my passion for the paranormal. And
good.
I reread my whole paranormal library, even though I couldn't go out and do anything, and all that. But I'll say I'm looking forward to the future. I want to get back out there, and I'm trying to find a project to do. I don't know if it's going to be a writing project, a video project, but I got to get something going again.
I hope it's one or the other or both.
Yeah, last investigation I was lucky enough to do was 2019, March of 2019. It was a house in Barrington, Rhode Island, and boy, that 5.5 hours surely wasn't wasted, because that house was very haunted.
Wow.
Got 2 Class A EVPs. We got intelligent rapping back to questions.
Yeah.
We had massive power drains on equipment in one room.
Wow.
And not only once, but twice, we heard someone walking across the protective plastic that was laid down on the rugs.
Wow.
And we caught it the second time on audio. Yeah. And I went back to see the homeowners and told them, yeah, you're not nuts. He's like, no, we knew we weren't nuts, but it's good to have some outside confirmation. But you have those investigations, and it really fuels you up and really charges you. You're like, this is why I do this nonsense.
and I appreciate you very much coming down all the way from Greenville, Rhode Island there.
The spooky, rainy November night.
I don't know if our audience can hear it, but you can actually hear the wind and the rain.
We've had a beautiful autumn. Like, I think one of the most beautiful autumns New England's ever had, and then tonight, of all nights,
yes, right.
we have that typical November in New England night where it's like you expect to see, Frankenstein walking down the street.
Yeah, the forces are out there,
But anyway, we made it here, and still heading forward.
Yeah.
And
so how's things in your neck of the woods?
well, they're doing pretty good. Like I said, I think probably the most interesting thing that happened to me just recently is I had a field producer working for the show the Skinwalker Ranch on the History Channel. Now, I've kind of turned my back on television over the past several years. I'm usually on the internet to look for documentaries and stories and things. But I understand that the History Channel is having big success with the Skinwalker Ranch story. I read the book, The Hunt for the Skinwalker. Have you had a chance to read that?
No.
I have the book if you'd like to borrow
it.
It's an excellent book.
Definitely.
And I think the most fascinating thing of being an amateur paranormal investigator, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a parapsychologist, but I think it's very interesting that, they hired all these scientists of all different disciplines. They had military guys, they had veterinarians, they had everybody. And they could not pin down what was causing that phenomena, as if something knew they were there and messed with them. I'm like, good. As an amateur, that happens to me. I'm glad it happens to the professionals. But they had contacted me. Apparently, they're going to do a spin-off called Beyond Skinwalker.
Really?
And they're going to go to other window areas. As you know, North America has quite a few of them.
Yeah.
You have the Chestnut Ridge in the Pennsylvania, Ohio region. And of course, right here in New England, we have the Bridgewater Triangle.
Yes.
And I did the documentary, The Bridgewater Triangle, back in 2013. Darren Cashew there. And they saw the documentary and they were impressed with what I had to say. So I was interviewed twice over the phone, and they sent me paperwork, and I guess I'm going to be telling a story that happened to me at N.E.A.R Rock.
Really?
Yeah, I actually
great.
had an experience at N.E.A.R Rock, so it's a good story, and I'm looking forward to it. A couple of my other colleagues will be on it. Matt Moniz will also be on it. They're going to have him talking about, I believe, Dighton Rock.
Right.
Which is funny, because I think the story I tried to tell them to have Matt tell is the BFRO got in touch with Matt from Maine, and they said, hey, Matt, we've had a credible sighting of a Sasquatch-like creature in your area. And believe it or not, they see them quite often in the Bridgewater Triangle. There's been a lot of them of late.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of reports of these Bigfoot-like creatures.
I think there's a lot of things that are paraphysical there anyway.
Exactly. So it was seen in I guess going through a field near, I think, one of the cranberry bogs. So they stayed out there all night waiting for this to see if they could see anything, maybe catch anything. And no, a Sasquatch didn't show up, but a UFO did.
Oh, really?
So there's the guys at the BFRO, and the next morning at breakfast, one of the BFRO person that was there, people that said they were skeptic and they didn't think it was. All the other Bigfoot people go, what are you nuts? You saw that thing, didn't make any sound, and it just hovered there in the sky.
I think they're connected, though.
Oh, they all are. Oh, yeah. All this stuff is connected somehow. I don't understand how, but I do believe it is connected. I mean, there's just too many. Again, these window areas, you have like every type of paranormal phenomena going on. Again, at the Skinwalker Ranch, they have poltergeist activity, they have Bigfoot, they have ghost lights, they have UFOs, they have things that seem to be portals opening up. Well, the same thing happens in other regions. It's just not the Skinwalker Ranch. So I think that's a good idea for a spin-off. And then in England, you have the Conic Chase. Nick Redfern, he grew up there practically as a kid. He was in that woods, as often as he could.
Right.
And the stories out of that place are just as crazy as the Bridgewater Triangle. Matter of fact, I think one of the most fun afternoons I ever spent was with Nick Redfern on a bus going through the Bridgewater Triangle. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm glad the world will learn about it.
That's good. That's good. The world should learn about it.
Yeah, it's a strange place. But I also want to learn about these other places that I don't know about or don't know enough about.
Right.
People know about Skinwalker, but they don't know a lot about the Stardust Ranch down in, I believe, in Colorado.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
Well, I don't know too much about it. That's why I'm curious about it. But from what I understand, I think it was a retired CIA agent or FBI agent and his wife. They went to start a farm in retirement. And when they bought the place, it looked like the people who lived there just left everything and left. So I got in touch with the real estate guy. This is the first weird thing that I heard happen to him. He said, hey, can you have these people come and get their stuff out of the house? Like it's still here. Like, are they going to come and get it? So he left for the day, and when he came back, everything in the house was in the empty swimming pool in the backyard.
Really?
And he called up the real estate agent and said, what, were they mad that I wanted them to get the stuff out of the house? He goes, no, I didn't even get in touch with them.
Wow. Wow.
And from that day on, one weird thing. Of course, the other weird thing was the somewhat homeless guy who showed up
Yeah.
And he said that he lived there. And he said, no, you don't. I now own the ranch. He said, no, you don't understand. I need to stay here because I have to fight the monsters.
Oh, really? Fight the monsters.
And he just thought he was some like kook who'd been doing
Yeah.
meth or something and found out, no, there were monsters on his ranch. And it just snowballed from there.
Right.
But even the guys from Skinwalker were sending other people down there. So even though that was the big focus, that other ranch was being paid attention to.
Wow.
And even the famous Navajo Rangers, the Navajo Indian Rangers, who are probably, I don't know if you're familiar with that. You should. I recommend to anybody check it out on YouTube. The Navajo Rangers. They were professional park rangers, Navajo Native Americans.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys were like serious park rangers. I mean,
Yeah.
serious. You know, and they were also paranormal investigators.
Oh,
and then
really?
when they went in
My
retirement,
goodness.
they continued with the paranormal investigations. And to hear the Navajo side of what they deal with from the Skinwalkers, Bigfoot, ghosts, what have you, it's
I think they've got it
fascinating.
way over us as far as knowledge.
So I'm hoping those guys will appear on this series too, because I watched one of their talks and wow, I had my hair standing up listening to some of the stories they told.
Yeah.
Some of them were funny, but some of them were downright spooky.
Yeah.
So yep, window areas, that's just it. And within these window areas, you name it, it can happen.
Right, right.
And why?
So you've had some experience in Foster, Rhode Island, and we will be doing a show very soon. You know, our road tripping series. We'll be doing road tripping haunted Foster, Rhode Island.
Yeah, Foster's just, I mean, of all the New England.
I hope you'll be assisting us in that.
Oh,
because
if you
you've
want me
had
to
some-
tag along, I'd love
definitely,
to, because
definitely.
anytime if I've got some spare time, I'll jump in the car some nights and I'll just drive around Foster just for the heck of it. Just go down the back roads.
Yeah.
Mostly you see deer.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you see a lot of
You
deer.
see a lot of deer. You have to be careful with the deer, but you know, you never know. I love to hang out down the Ramtail Road, take a spin down Tucker Hollow Road.
Yeah.
Of course, down Moosup Valley.
Oh yeah.
But love driving around Foster. But in my opinion, the whole eastern side of Rhode Island, excuse me, I had to say the western side of Rhode Island in eastern Connecticut, that whole borderline up there, the number of weird stories I've heard over the years.
Yeah.
And as I was telling the producers that were interviewing me for the History Channel, I was telling them that Lauren Coleman said, look, I did it tongue in cheek when I called it the Bridgewater Triangle. It's just that with all my research and my map on the wall with all the colored text stuck in for different topics, he stood back one night and went, wow, from Abington to Rehoboth to Freetown, it's almost like a rough triangle.
Yeah.
And everybody was into the Bermuda Triangle at the time. So tongue in cheek, he called it the Bridgewater Triangle.
Right.
But like he said, it was better sounding than the Bridgewater Throat Lozenge
right.
or any other shape. And he said, if you guys want to expand the boundaries, if you feel that they need to be expanded, he said, feel free to do so.
Well, it is always expanding.
Yeah,
You know,
well,
I've
Cape
heard
Cod,
that
as far as I'm concerned, the whole thing can shoot right up, all up through Cape Cod. I mean, the stories that I've been told by folks out in the Cape is like, again, it's one of its own strange places. All of southeastern Massachusetts, I think all of Rhode Island, and like I said, the whole eastern side of Connecticut.
Yeah, there has to be portals in Bridgewater Triangle. There has to be. You know, because these things come and go.
Well, yeah.
I said,
I have a very good friend who was, as a teenager, trying to figure out if he was going to go to college or what he'd go for. He went to the Bridgewater State College in the summer and with about 200 other kids. And he had broken his leg, and one of the counselors or that were there at the school went to pick him up at his dorm to take him to the outdoor movie. They were going to watch Jurassic Park at this big inflatable screen. They had about 200 kids out there. And they watched a gigantic UFO just materialize in the sky above them. Wow. And Brian had never heard about the story that was mentioned in the documentary, The Bridgewater Triangle, where the two guys from Boston saw what they described to look like a gigantic baseball plate up in the sky.
Yeah, like a little
and Brian, when he
diamond
saw
there
that documentary, he calls me and says, Andrew, that's the thing I saw. And I'm like, what thing you saw? He said, I never told you that story because it's crazy, but 200 witnesses, we watched lights appear in the sky, and we're like, are they attached to something? And then this form just appeared, and then these orange orbs showed up, and it just floated off. He said it actually scared people that were there. They didn't want to look at it. People ran inside. And the rest of the group stood out there and watched it. So Brian pushed it the next day, and one of the teachers said, we've seen this thing before. One of the professors called the Air Force out on Otis, and the message that came back through the dean was mind your own business and let it go.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Wow.
So yes, portals,
No uncertain words,
And I myself, with Brian, it was a weird coincidence, but in 2015, July 5th in West Warwick, Rhode Island, with no fireworks going off, as quiet as could be. I looked up and there was a gigantic orange sphere of fire, like orangey fire, right above me, not making a sound, right above the backyard I was in.
Really?
And I'm looking at it, and my brain thought, what am I looking at, a firework about to go off? And it's like, no, it's just hovering there. And then it just moved. And everybody in the party was terrified of it. And one guy was actually yelling at me to stop looking at it.
Really?
And as people in the party were looking up going, oh my God, what is that? This one guy that was there kept yelling at everybody. He's going, it's just a paper lantern. It's nothing. Right. I watched it go out to East Greenwich and just sit above East Greenwich and hover. And then I just watched it move out toward the Cape. So I got in touch with my friend Brian, and I'm telling him the story with his girlfriend. They're eating Chinese food looking at me. And when I'm done telling my story, he looks at his girlfriend. Should we tell Andy what we saw that night? He said, what time was that? And I told him, and he said, yeah, well, about 10 minutes after that, we saw it coming up from the direction of Rhode Island. We stood there, watched it, and it went out to sea.
Wow.
So the following October, I'm hanging out with Brian, and he's talking to me, and all of a sudden his eyes come out of his head, and he just gets up off his couch, and I turn and look to the window, and there's two of them hovering right over Onset, where he lives in Wareham, Mass. We ran outside.
Wow.
Now, I had a cheap phone. I've never used it as a camera or video, and I'm trying to figure out how you turn it on as a video camera, and I did it wrong. I was supposed to hit the button one more time, so I was videoing nothing.
All right.
But two of them hung right above Onset, and we're talking big, orangey, spiky, like fiery-looking ball, and no noise from them. Wow. And we're looking at it, and a third one comes up and joins them and just sits there. And then it goes out into the ocean and stops and just, and then the other two move out to the same spot.
Really?
And then two more come in, and then a sixth one, this one makes six, goes past those two, goes out to the ocean, stops in the same spot. Wow. And then the last two go out, do the same thing and disappear. And if you go on YouTube, you can find videos of the same thing I saw from Ireland to Mexico, these same objects. And when 2 years later, our government kind of, sort of, soft disclosure came forward and said, yeah, we're being visited by people. It's like, yeah, every other government's already admitted it.
Yeah.
But because you guys got called out by a CIA contractor, you finally admitted it.
Right.
And I saw a video of a retired Navy pilot that was in 2015 was off the Carolinas and described the same formation. And he said, those things weren't of this world, whatever they are. Wow. So are they lying to us? Do they have technology we don't know about? Is Space Force more technologically advanced than we realize? Or is it somebody else keeping an eye on us? I don't know, but as a ghost guy, it absolutely floored me. I could not believe what I saw. And fortunately, other people saw it that night, including a pilot.
Really?
And he said those things weren't conventional aircraft.
Wow. Well, how close do you think we are to full disclosure, in your opinion?
I don't think there'll ever be full disclosure. No. I remember years ago listening to a guy who worked for NASA. He was on Art Bell. Yeah. And I'm sorry I forgot the gentleman's name, but he was saying that the bigwigs at NASA run NASA like a religion.
Really? And
that NASA has discovered things about our planet, our moon, Mars, its moons, Venus, and they're keeping it to themselves like elites. Like the rabble don't need to know this. Like we know this because we're special. Yeah. And a lot of scientists at NASA are very disappointed by the fact that very amazing things have been discovered by NASA.
Yeah, I never look at the moon's out. I never look at it the same anymore because I'm wondering what's going on up there. Something is going on up there right now.
Look at all the stuff that's been videoed recently. The stuff flying by it. Is it us again? Have we gone back to the moon and they just haven't told us? Yeah. Because what was it, 20-something years ago, the Army was all excited that they found a big frozen chunk of ice up on the moon, which means they can make oxygen and they can make fuel. And who was the first group to say we should go to the moon? The United States Army, right after World War II. We defeated the Japanese and the Nazis, and then all of a sudden the Army goes, hey, we have to go to the moon.
Wow.
Why? So it makes you wonder. It makes you wonder. Did the Germans learn something and then we found out through interrogating their scientists and it was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. Why did we go down to the South Pole right after World War II? The whole Navy and Coast Guard went down there.
Right.
And of course the rumors that Byrd went along with them because Byrd had those experiences down there. And you know, people say, well, they were worried the Nazis had a base down there. Well, maybe they did, but maybe they found something down there. And now what are we hearing? We're hearing these rumors of pyramids under the ice, and
wow.
You know, they're finding these old maps that show Antarctica is thriving with, you know, plant life and animals, and
a lot of famous people have been visiting the Antarctic.
Yeah, so it makes you wonder what's going on with the Antarctic, and is it connected to the, you know, the UFO disclosure? Because my theory, this is just my theory, but I don't think they go back and forth to their planet to ours. I think they share this planet with us.
Oh, okay.
Because how many sightings have people seen of crew members where they have no spacesuit, no breathing apparatus, no protective gear?
Right.
So they seem to be able to get along in our atmosphere. And unlike H.G. Wells saying that our germs would probably kill them, it's only once in a while that you hear a credible story, where someone says, no, they did have some kind of suit on, they did have some kind of apparatus. But people go, oh, why would they grab a cow and then go all the way back to Alpha Centauri? No, they're probably only going maybe 300 yards away, and they're going into a secret opening somewhere.
Subterranean.
And the UFOs were
submersibles,
seen.
yes.
Yeah, and
definitely.
they're not interplanetary ships. They're like their version of a van. Like maybe they can't even leave the atmosphere in some of these ships. Maybe they're just like their version of a van. It's an anti-grav van. Let's go get a cow because we need we need some stuff for our bio testing.
Yeah. A puckwudgie sounds very much like a small gray to me.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to explain that to our audience.
Puckwudgies. Puckwudgies are a troll here in New England, but the thing is,
kind of exclusive to New England.
Yeah, but no, not really. They're also the same exact creature in description is talked about in Exmoor in England. It's one of the famous protected moorlands in England. There is a creature that is described with the same physical characteristics and the same personality and the same magical abilities as our puckwudgie. Now, years ago, I had a Spanish TV show get in touch with me, and they said, we're sending a guy from our show. We do a paranormal show. His name was Santiago Camacho. And he came with one cameraman, and they wanted to do the Bridgewater Triangle. So they interviewed me and two other people and asked us to tell stories. And I brought up the puckwudgie. And Santiago is listening to me intently. And when I was all done telling him about these little troll-like creatures that seem to have mystical, magical abilities and so on and so forth, he looks at me, he goes, Andrew, in Spain, we have the same exact creature. And he said, and the strange thing is, they're usually seen in tandem with our Bigfoot.
Really? Goodness.
And then you hear a lot of stories of the Native Americans. Now, when a good friend of ours, Christopher Balzano, who you had on the show years ago, Christopher is, in my opinion, I think he is solely responsible for bringing this legend to light, because it was Christopher that did all this research, and then, of course, it gets up on the internet, and then people started finding it, and a lot of it came through Christopher's research. Now, he had been told that
Deep Woods,
the story that the puckwudgies used to get along with people, and then there was like a falling out.
Dark Woods,
and so on and so forth. But from what I understand, looking at like the Cherokee people talk about them too, but the Cherokee people and other tribes say that there are two races of little people. You have the ugly werewolf-looking puckwudgies. And you have this other race that looked just like us. Or as the Cherokee said, they looked very much like most Native Americans, but they were just very small people. They weren't odd, they were just small. And the story is that they never liked the puckwudgies and vice versa. And at one point, there was this great war. And they didn't kill each other out, but they basically, both people went subterranean. And I read an excellent book written by an historian out of Virginia, where they were expanding on a university after World War II, and cut into a hill, into a mound, and there were these perfect little tunnels leading from the mound into the earth. And the Cherokee guys working on the crew said, we shouldn't touch this anymore. And they actually had to build the building around the mound. And people at the school said they left it so people could go into the mound and the tunnels, but they were too small for normal humans.
Wow.
So is it puckwudgie, or is it the Cherokee little people, or what?
About how old do you think these tunnels were?
They said the thing is that was so strange about it is the floors were flat, the walls and the roof were rounded, and there were no roots growing through it. There were no spider webs, nothing. So it looked as if people had been passing through it. And according to the Cherokees, they were there long before, because the Cherokee came down from the Great Lakes many, 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 many years ago to the Carolinas and encountered these people. And they actually said they could communicate with them. And they would trade things. But then when this war started with them and the ugly little people, they all kind of disappeared. But I recall a Bigfoot documentary a few years back where they were out in the middle of nowhere. And it was kind of cold out. It wasn't warm weather. And by a little babbling brook in the soft sand, they found a perfect little human footprint.
Really?
And the film crew was like, well, could that be an infant Sasquatch? Could that be a child Sasquatch? And I'm thinking, no, you dummies, you found the footprint of a little person, but your brains are so locked into Bigfoot.
Well, the legend, they could be Fae, legends of Fae.
Or because you have the elementals, that make up, fire, wind, and water, and so on.
Like tonight,
yeah. But no, many years ago, if I was told a fairy or fae story, I would find it, entertaining.
Yes.
And I wouldn't have taken it so seriously. But no, I absolutely take the story of the little folk very seriously now. I've looked into some things and I've had some stories told to me. And again, the Pukwudgies, very big in the Bridgewater Triangle.
Yes.
You have, what is it? Right off of 495 across from Mansfield, you have, not Eastland, Easton, Mass.
Okay, yeah.
Easton. I'm sorry, I'm a Rhode Islander. I'm going to get my Mass towns wrong. But Easton, Mass, it's also part of the Hockomock Swamp.
Yeah, I was just about to mention the Hockomock Swamp.
And it's part of that, the swamp, because it's like 200 square miles, you know. And that's where Officer Downey in 1974 saw the Thunderbird standing in the middle of the 6-foot bird. But the Pukwudgies have been seen around in Easton a lot.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, on Mill Street in Easton, there is an official sign there, put there by the Land Trust of Easton, telling you that this little swampy area behind the sign, there used to be a mill there in the 1700s. And it was owned by a father and then the son. And the son was accused of keeping the mill open at night and running the business late at night with the help of demonic imps.
Oh, really? Wow.
So I brought this story up to a woman, and she looked at me and goes, "This is in Easton?" And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Oh, my husband and I have a friend that lives in Easton. He told us he won't go out at night because he went out to go get like cigarettes or bread or milk or whatever at the convenience store. And as he was driving down the road at night, this ugly, hideous little thing on 2 legs ran right across the road. And he didn't know about the Pukwudgies. He didn't know anything about that.
Right, yeah.
But he told his friends, "I will never go out at night again on another errand."
Oh, wow.
And this is in the same vicinity of Mill Street.
Wow, my goodness.
Where
Believe
that
it or not,
legend is.
we're almost winding up.
Great.
This is just going like that,
Well, if you're going to do something in Foster,
definitely.
keep me in touch. We'll stake out a site.
I think an audience could listen to you for 5 hours and not get bored.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. Yeah.
But some of them might not sleep afterwards, and a night like this, some of them might not want to drive home.
Well, let's face it, we're lucky. We live in southern New England, Keith. We got tons of stories. Tons of stories.
Yep.
The guys from Spain, they couldn't believe they were in New England. He goes, "We have great ghost stories in Spain, but you got better ones."
Yeah. I think people from all over the world should converge.
Oh, yeah. We know Brits that love coming here.
Yeah.
And their ghost
Steve
stories are
Parsons,
great.
our mutual friend there.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, sometime we got to talk about how you met him, the story, how you met him and everything like that.
The Society of Psychical Research. They're the real deal.
Yeah, and they've been around for a long time. Well, I want to thank you, my friend.
Hey, no problem, bud. Thanks for having
being
me
on. Very good. And anything coming up that you'd like to talk about? You did talk a lot about
no, not much.
Future ventures.
That's coming up in January, hopefully, that shooting. And like I said, I'm just chomping at the bit to get back out there.
Yeah, well, it's good. It's good. And like I said, you're looking great. Taking care of yourself and everything. Starting to look a little bit like Dabbs Greer.
Yeah.
Which is a compliment, Great actor. Great actor.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, soon we'll be teaming up to do Haunted Foster, Rhode Island.
Yes.
Yeah, road tripping as part of our road tripping series.
Yeah.
All right. Well, everybody, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here with us. And you're glad that you're not really outside in this area tonight. We got to drive home in this, but
really.
Good luck with that. But God bless and happy holidays and happy Festivus.
Yes.
Whatever somebody may celebrate.
That's right.
But God bless us, everyone. The words of Tiny Tim. Good night.
Good night, everyone.